First-wing diplomat Thomas was sitting in stunned silence. So was the rest of the Exploratory Alliance Council. They were sitting around the table having watched the video that had been sent to them by the American ambassador, Jerry. He looked around at the other diplomats as they began to recover from their amazement at different speeds. Then he looked back to the intern who had got the video working on their presentation screen. They insist on calling us what again? After some fiddling with the translator, I was able to determine their desire to call us space eagles. Eagles are a large predatory bird from their home planet. Apparently we possess a striking resemblance to them. And not only that, but one species is their clan symbol. He typed away on his console to bring up one of the images from the video again. There indeed was a symbol that looked something like a Libertonian, but without arms. Clearly an animal instead of something intelligent, but it looked menacing. In one hand it clutched a symbol for ancient human weapons Thomas had been told were arrows. In the other hand it clutched something he'd been told was a hamburger. Apparently it represented their desire for war and prosperity. Something like that. Right, and then that first segment, that was some of their military training or warrior cultivation program? No, I'm told those were sports. There was some murmuring among the panel as second-wing diplomat Sherry spoke up. You mean, those weren't ritualized forms of combat? That was just their version of swoop and swipe? Or divers and climbers? Yes, that's correct. But they were smashing into each other. And hitting that small sphere with a stick. How did they do that? The general noise level rose, as everyone tried to talk, and Thomas had to raise his wings, fluttering them to get everyone to quiet down for a moment. Sherry spoke up again. There's no way that's realistic. That species must only perform their sports during rare and focused rituals. The pain they must inflict on the players is not sustainable. Thomas waved his hand slowly to indicate calm. From what we've been told, that video was sent to us in good faith to better explain their clan. From what Blackwing diplomat Emily told us, this is on par with the mercenary she has hired. It seems like the reports she has sent us are not too good to be true, but instead incredibly fortunate for us. But will they help us? It's centuries since the galactic government marginalized us for our attempts to bring out the greatest of species. They feared our potential and worked to bring everyone down to the same level, and this species is no different. The galactic government will soon move against them. They'll fend for themselves and won't give us another thought. Thomas shook his head and pointed a hand at the screen. That video seems to indicate a culture that would love to help us. But really, we have to watch the mercenary with Emily. If he continues to behave as she thinks he will, and he represents these Americans, then they will be the greatest allies our people have ever had. The first-wing diplomat rose then, turning to look out the window over the capital beyond. The rising spires built in the mountains above the gaseous valleys below. Their people had been contained to this single planet since the treacherous Crusticans had betrayed them, trading in a chance for exceptionalism with security. Working with the galactic government to try and bring all races down to an equal level. The fate of our alliance with these Americans rests on one of their own. Perhaps the fate of the entire galaxy rests on the shoulders of Billy Bob, Space Trucker. Mittens was annoyed. The large, lightly-haired cat hadn't come back with food in far too long. That strange not-food bird hadn't either. Sure, he slept for a while, and then drank some water from the little bowl the other cat filled up for him, and then slept some more, but he was getting hungry. And no one had pet him in ages. He stared at the threshold the other cat would enter and leave from, trying to summon the food bringer with his mind. Then Mittens heard some sort of noise and got excited. He began to scratch at the side of the strange wall that would move, demanding food at the top of his lungs to make it clear that it was unacceptable he'd been forced to wait so long. On the other side of the airlock, Corporal Fitzreg was prodding Private Grisnod. Go on. We were told to check out that ugly freak's ship, so we got to do it. But Grisnod was standing frozen at the door. No way. Do you hear that? It sounds like a creature with claws. It sounds hungry. They paused as they listened to that ominous howling. Clearly a predator waited on the other side. Was the scratching a method of keeping its claws sharp, or was it threatening them? Fitzroy gulped and gave Grisnod another prod. "I'm the corporal here, that means you have to obey me." They got closer to the inner airlock. Their Fen pulse rifles raised, energy shields crackling as they approached. Mittens could hear something getting closer as he ran back and forth in front of the sometimes moving wall. He would jump up and scratch and howl, demanding they stop taking so long and open up and feed him. "It's in some sort of killing frenzy," Grisnod gasped as he trembled. Fitzroy tried to push him closer to the door. "It's a pet on a small ship. It can't be that bad." "They said that creature betted a Veresslian mountain crusher. What do you mean its pet can't be that bad?" They paused as the scratching stopped. Mittens had grown annoyed and hopped up on the bed. Maybe they think he's starved to death and come running to feed him. Instead, they seem relieved. "Maybe it's gone." "Who knows? But now is our chance." Grisnod stepped forward, opening the inner airlock. His weapon swung in, but he didn't see anything giant and ferocious. He took a step in as Fitzroy stayed in the space between airlocks. "Ow!" Grisnod said then, as he saw the fluffy creature. "Was that you making all that noise?" He let out a relieved sigh, and then chuckled a little. Mittens, however, stared at him. One of the reasons Billy Bob had chosen a Martian marauder as a pet was because that breed of cat had been designed to hunt pests on Mars. They had a certain instinct built into them to attack something they didn't recognize, and hadn't been in the company of one of those trusted, big, semi-hairless cats. So after staring at the creature for a moment, Mittens jumped onto his face, sinking his claws in deep. Grisnod screamed as he dropped his weapon and clutched at his face. Fitzroy just saw a blur slam into the other soldier, and then he slammed his fist onto the airlock button, which let the wall slam down into place. Turning, he ran out of the ship's airlock as fast as he could, Grisnod's screams echoing down the loading dock as he moved. There was no way he was going in there. He would take his chances back in the station. However, as he ran past the guard station, that strange creature had first been stopped as he came to a skidding halt. There was some sort of strange battle cry coming out of the PA. He turned his translator back on to try and make sense of the odd language. "War! Yeah! What is it good for?" He didn't like the sound of that. Then ahead of him, at one of the intersections in the station, he saw 4 of his battle brothers running as fast as they could. There was some sort of explosion, and a wave of fire washed over them. The 4 crying out as their fur caught fire. Their shields useless, it seemed. They rolled on the ground, screaming and crying as he saw the creature advance upon them, approaching each of his battle brothers and silencing their cries of agony with a small explosion coming from some sort of metal device in his hand. Once the 4 burning battle brothers were dead, he turned, seeing Fitzroy. The corporal had faced down Krustikan commandos. He'd wrestled with jitterbugs. He battled Philas Rangers. His battle brothers had been outnumbered countless times and been victorious. As this single creature looked at him, not even armed with energy weapons or a defense shield, all Fitzroy could do was toss his weapon to the ground, drop to his knees, and curl his arms in to show submission and surrender. Billy Bob looked over his shoulder and waved Emily forward. "Hey, Emily, is that guy praying or something?" He pointed to the kneeling Borg he saw, who tossed his weapon down, after he'd hit his friends with a dragon's breath round. Emily was still limping a little, as she carried the security panel that Billy Bob had helped charge, and looked at what he was pointing. "No, he's trying to surrender." Billy Bob brightened up at that. "Oh, good. I was really worried I'd have to kill them all." He jogged over to the kneeling Borg and gave him a little nudge. The creature whimpered and shrank away from him for a moment, before he gripped one of those horns and pulled it up to his feet. "Hey, I want you to do me a favor." The Borg opened his eyes and looked at Billy Bob with surprise. "What?" "A favor. See, I don't need to kill the rest of your friends here, or even want to. I just want to kill that fucking space clown." The Bork blinked again. The what? That creepy gas-bag boss of yours. Oh, the creepy space clown. Billy Bob waved a hand. Don't bother trying. I've got my translator set to that. So, I've been working my way around to the central area, and I know there was a fair amount of your friends guarding the door. So, come with me and explain to them. If they just leave the clown to me, I won't bother. But the creed forbids it. Telling them, or them leaving him? It forbids them from leaving him. What about you? You surrendered, didn't you? I'm ashamed of my people now. Ah, well, a little shame doesn't hurt that much. Now, come on. Billy Bob pulled the Bork along, making him walk with him towards the central chamber he'd seen earlier. As the song ended, he quickly scrolled through his implant once more. One pill makes you larger, and one pill makes you small. That should freak them out, he figured. Soon, he held his new Bork captive in front of him, and glanced around the corner at the last blockade between him and that fucking space clown. There were 2 mechs and 10 regular Borks, but they'd been smart enough to form the stalls into cover. This would be harder. He gave the Bork a shove. Go tell him. The Bork stumbled forward and gulped. The creature we fight is honourable, Battle Brothers. He offers us trade. If we leave the station, he will only deal with the one who has wronged him. He held his hands forward, hoping they'd listen to reason. But Fizrek then heard Captain Dweg. He's a traitor! Kill him! Billy Bob flinched, as his prisoner was riddled with pink bolts of energy, his shield failing after a few seconds before he was cut to shreds. Billy Bob quickly peeked around the corner once more. This was going to be hard. Then he looked around for a moment and remembered he was on a black market station. Emily, have we passed any bars? What? Yes, a few. Why? Show me which shops have alcohol. I'm going to make some humans' drinks. Is now the best time to get drunk, Billy Bob? They aren't for me, they're for our friends. It's a very special drink called a Molotov cocktail. There's sure to be a blast at parties. The Borks huddled behind their barricade, unsure what was taking their opponents so long to show up. Little did they know what was in store. And so ends another chapter in the adventures of Billy Bob, Space Trucker.